So one of the big challenges for organisation is time wastage when you're perhaps submitting a project request or you're submitting a new work request and you're having to chase whether somebody's seen it, whether they're going to approve it, whether they've got any questions. In this video, I'm going to show you an out-of-the-box way that you can deal with that seamlessly. No complex setup, no code, but this is going to use something called Power Automate Approvals, which has had a lot of improvements recently. So I'm going to take you through the different ways you can use it out of the box to meet your particular project workflow. So I hope you enjoy the video, do like and subscribe, and don't forget to check back on the prior videos all about this project initiation workflow. Before we dive in, let me just show you the data. It's a simple SharePoint list here that we've populated using a SharePoint list form, something I showed in a previous video, which is a great alternative to Microsoft Forms. Now, it's got some data you would expect to have. It's got different choice fields, it's got text fields, people fields, it's got a nice big text field there. There are some blank columns, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. And there's this fancy button here. And again, I'm going to explain that in this video. You have options not to use this, but it's quite a nice way to add interactivity to your lists. And we have some status fields. So it's just simple data in a list. And what we're going to do is we're going to assume that before we send this request for approval, we want to do some triage. So I'm going to act as a PMO person, and in these blank columns, I might add some data. That can be a time-bound activity, happens every week, for example, on every item in the list. Therefore, what we're doing is we're creating structure in the process. And the whole point of this is to remove manual chasing, remove wasted time where a submitter says, hey, look, what's going on with my request? If we publish the schedule for this, the submitter knows that every week their request is going to get looked at. The approvers know that every week they're also going to receive approval requests. So there's no toing and froing. We've taken that out of the loop. And if you are careful enough and you want to have a little look, this is my assertion for the kind of time that you might save. Really conservative stuff, 5 to 10 minutes per approval request if you take a process a little bit like this. So that scales up. You got 10 approvals a week. That's, 150 minutes a week if my maths is correct. Anyway, that's an aside. You can work out your own benefits for this, but let's imagine we put some data in. And let's just go and do that. So you'll see there a human review's taken place on the request that came in to the SharePoint list, and it's now time for next steps. Now, what you can do is you can automate this process. So there's not even a button click or a decision to make here, but I want to deliberately give you that feeling and that idea that Power Automate's super flexible. The Power Platform is super flexible. So this is probably one of those cases where you might have a business that's a little bit more conservative and you don't just want to fire everything at the approvers when it comes into this list. A human decision should still be made. And in that case, this is the kind of solution that you're going to want. So let's not worry about this button for now. What this button does, we'll come back to it, is the PMO team might click it and they go, right, I want to send this record for approval. That has now taken place in the background. When I build this flow out with you, we will see some updates come back to this list. So let's flip to Power Automate, and I'll try and be brief here. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you have questions, please pop them in the comments. The trigger you want for this particular condition is something called for a selected item. It's one of the SharePoint group. So we simply set it up with the name and the list. And as with all SharePoint actions, when it's woken up, we have to get the details of the item. We choose the get item. Again, repeat the list. And because Power Automate has the context of when it's operating, we can get the ID for that record. That's the ID for the record that we've just used here and we've just clicked to select. We'll come on to how the joining of those two things works in a moment. But what we're going to do is when we've got that item, we've got all the details there, we're going to send that item for approval. Now, there's 4 different kinds of approval. These two here are 2 sides of a coin. We can create an approval and then do nothing more. We can do nothing and then wait for approvals to happen. Or we can do what we're going to do here, which is to start an approval and wait. And when something comes back, we can then continue the flow. That's where we will update our SharePoint record here with an approval status. There is another one, which is start and wait for an approval of text, which I haven't used in the past, but you can experiment with that. So we'll click start and wait for an approval. We have 5 types now. There used to be less than this, but this is where I'll walk you through them. Here, it's a simple binary: approve, reject, and everyone that you nominate must approve. Again, binary, but it's first of a list of people. And here is where you can put your customized options in. So maybe you've got 4 or 5 options. Maybe you've got 2, but they're very specifically worded. And again, it's wait for everybody or wait for one. Here, the difference is you've got an approve, reject, but it's going to go in order of a sequence of people that you choose. So let's just choose the custom response so I can show you what that looks like and why it's slightly different. We can define the wording on the approval that gets sent to people, and that will make more sense when you see it. So let's fill in a couple of options and let's take it from there. So you see I put 3 options in here, and that's slightly different to a simple binary approve, reject. You can approve and reject with comments, but in this case, I'd like to give them the option to say, I'm unsure, please message me in Teams. We can fill in the rest of the detail and it's all fairly self-explanatory, but what I'll just say is that this is all setting up information that you're going to pass to your approver. So the more information you can put here, the easier this process will be. And the whole goal here is to remove waste. It's to stop someone having to go to your SharePoint list or an email or ask you and have that interaction back and forth. So give them as much as you can in the approval. And we can pick that information from the SharePoint list. So for the selected item, in fact, from the get item, which is where the data comes back, we'll take the title. You can choose the person that you assign this to. Notice the little cog there, they've changed the UI from the SharePoint list. So again, when you do the get item, you've got that person, the sponsor. That's my email address. This will come to me. The details of this approval, I'm going to put a few pieces of data. I'm going to crunch them together. You will spend more time formatting this, no doubt, but I just want to show you quickly. So we're going to put the goal, the value proposition, and perhaps a few of those notes that the person evaluating in this case had put in. So yeah, as I say, spend some time working on formatting. There's a language called Markdown that you can use to spread out the message when it's in that details box. I'll do a video on that if there's any interest in how to set those up, because it is quite important. Again, another really important thing, choose a link back to the item so you are not sending people around the houses. And the piece of data you want there is the link to item. So what's important as a last step for this pattern is that you want to then do something with the response. Now, the doing happens via what's called the control group. So what this is a set of actions that you can choose, which will say, based upon what's come out of this action, you can either choose to go down one leg or another. So this condition here means you've got a binary option. So it's a yes or no option. Because I've got 3 potential responses in my start and wait for an approval, I'm going to use a different action, which is called switch. All that really does is it gives me more options to intercept. So we'll do the start and wait for an approval. If someone says, yes, this is a good idea, the switch can watch for it using what's called a case. So you can see I've been setting up some in the past. It does remember a few things, get used to that. Power Automate does some unusual things at times. So if the case there equals, yes, this is a good idea, I'm just copy pasting that into there. Then it will perform this leg. I've got 3 other options. I've got reject. So let's put that in. Make sure we put it into the title and we put the actual value that we're looking for. And last but not least, we've got Teams, please message me. So let's just call that Teams. That's just the header there. This is the text that you want. Now, you've got this other leg which is always there. And that means if it doesn't find one of these values, perhaps you put a typo in, it will go down this default leg. So I tend to either put a terminate in there or just leave it empty and nothing will happen. That's it. That's the pattern. That's the pattern you want to flow for this approval. Now, the last thing, trying to squeeze this in nice and quickly before I leave you, is that you're going to want to hook this up into your SharePoint list. Now, the way to do that, I said I'd show you how to do this at the start of the video, is in the list, if you go into the column settings and you format this column, if you look for format columns as the tab there, you can put, for any individual column, they're all visible, you can put what's called JSON into the column formatting. Now, this is a language to get used to or a structure to get used to, but there are dozens of examples out there on the internet. Just go and search for JSON column formatting in SharePoint and or maybe include the words pictures or icons and you'll find loads of examples of how to use them. The important thing is choose an example that you like, copy paste it into that box, experiment with it. But the very important piece is down the bottom here, the custom row action. This is the thing that will happen when that button gets clicked on that particular row. Here we say execute flow, and the piece you're looking for is the action params, particularly everything after the V1 down to here. That's what you need to get hold of for your individual flow. So where do we get hold of that? I've saved this draft. I'll click back. Ever so easy. We go to this screen here, which is the flow details, and you go to export and you get flow identifier, and it's there. You can't change it. It's fixed for the flow when you create it. You click copy. You very carefully go then and you paste it. Only paste from the V1 onwards and make sure you preserve the formatting here. If you make a mistake, I'm going to recommend you do use the wonderful AI tools that are out there. Copy all of this, paste it into AI, say, I think I made a mistake, can you fix it? Generally, it's really good at fixing little syntax issues. You might also say, I don't want the green that John's got there. I don't want the chevrons. I want this instead. Let AI help you if you need to. Use the examples out there on the internet to help you. So as a final note, now you've wired that up and you've saved that column formatting, what I want to do is just make sure we tidy up this flow. And in that last section here, because there's no parameters, we're going to do something. So if the answer is yeah, I'm happy, we're going to update an item in SharePoint. And we're going to choose our list again. Again, we can pull the ID from the get item. And what are we going to update? Well, we've got lots of columns that we can update, but what I will do just very quickly is I will update the decision outcome value. And in this case, it will be approved. And we click save. You can complete the remaining parts of your leg here. I didn't even put in a value there, silly me. So for this switch, we need to be watching for the outcome of an approval. And then we'll do some things. So I don't know if I explained that particularly well when I did it. I might have skimmed over it. But what we do is we have set up these options and we have the switch to look at whatever option comes out of that prior action. That's all that really means. And then if the action's yes, then do that. If it's reject, we'll do something else. Maybe we'll just update the status to rejected, etc. You can choose your workflow. But what I wanted to show is that very simple pattern there that's going to allow you to go through the process and catch information. Now, you can see I have tested this flow and it's currently sat waiting for an approval. So let me just show you what that approval might look like. The quickest way to have a look at them is to go to what's called the Approval Center in Power Automate. And we should see the approval there that's sat waiting to go. So 1 minute ago, I've actually sent it to a test account on this particular system. But you can see here I can have a look at it, and you can have a look at the top. There's my custom information that I put into it. You can see these in different forms. That will be in Teams. That will also have sent an email to the email address of Petra with the same options. Let's just have a little click, and if we click on it, what we should see is the information we put in the approval. You can see it's not particularly well formatted there, but that doesn't really matter. And we've got an option here to go, yes, this is great, or no. So let's just click yes and click confirm. That'll get this out of everybody's eye line, I hope. And that's gone. Okay, so we still got it in the history. It's been approved. We can see why it's been approved. So let's just go back and have a look at the flow now. The flow should have completed. So if we have a look here, it's gone through, it's fallen down this leg, and it's updated the item. So let's have a quick look over at the item itself. I'll do a quick refresh on my SharePoint list, and we'll see, have we got data in that field? Decision outcome is now approved. So it wasn't that approval status, that's something else I should have adapted. But this decision outcome here has been updated. So you can see now that you can start to build flows, and the next piece that you might want to do is to go, on the basis of that being approved, go and load this project into my project management solution. And that's going to be the subject of the final video, where I will show you how to map across from these customized, easy to implement workflows into maybe the out-of-the-box third-party system, which no doubt comes with a database. And in many cases, because you're watching this, it's most likely to be a Dataverse database. It's ever so easy to do, but I'll show you that in the next video. So do come back, do like and subscribe. And like I said before, if you have questions, pop them in comments or just drop me an email because you may have spotted that in the video. All right, see you next time.